Everyone, thank you so much for staying with us. Tonight I've been speaking with Honorable Philip Agbese, Deputy Spokesman, House of Representatives, as we discuss the House of Representatives Legislative Week with focus on boosting relationship between NASS and the people. Honorable Agbese, thanks a lot for staying with us. Now, let me allow you to make your final point on how the current leadership is changing this perception.
Yes, like I said, I'll give it to Nigerians, for their interests. If you look at the history of our country and the current democracy since 1999, you agree with me that the parliament seems to be the youngest. Youngest in the sense that even during the military era, we had the executive, the military considered itself into an executive arm of government. The judiciary has always been there. So it is the parliament that has always suffered. And even between 1999 and date, a couple of times, the parliament within itself have equally suffered coups. You will recall that between 1999 and 2007, when His Excellency Senator David Mark came on board, we used to have Senate President within Senate President almost every month. And then later again, you come to the House of Representatives. You have this, yes, you have issues with leadership from Salisu Buhari's time to Patricia Ete. So what basically has been the bane, of the parliament, the trust deficit in the parliament, has been the issue of instability. And people who wanted to cause instability, of course, rely on mistakes by, presiding officers. So for us, we inherited a ninth. We came on board. We are riding on the successes of the 9th Assembly, led by Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila. He built a very strong foundation for us. And, in less than no time, we have been able to build on that with the leadership of His Excellency Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, to further concretize on the efforts that they have made for the country. And in doing so, we evolve into a new modern parliament, not only in Nigeria, people outside the country are already celebrating this parliament. But Mr. Speaker is saying, no, let us still keep it low. There's still, more to be done, more to be achieved for the Nigerian people. That's why we're taking it gradually. So with the bills so far considered and the motions and deliberations that we have carried out, this is the first time in the history of our country that a parliament is opening its door to Nigerians to say, yes, we do not fear to be criticized. We believe that criticism will get us better. We want to open our books. We want you to come in. We want you to make input. We want you to talk to us. That is exactly what we are doing at the moment.
Absolutely. And I think Nigerians appreciate that. But sometime last year, there was a stakeholder dialogue where political leaders, students, the media, CSOs gathered to discuss this matter of trust deficits and also why politicians do not fulfill their campaign promises. And I remember Ekiti State Governor, former Governor Kayode Fayemi said, no state governor wants to go there without doing his best. But most times they meet the unexpected. And I mean, realistically, you may want to understand that point of view. But for you lawmakers, Nigerians are asking what makes most of the lawmakers renege on their campaign promises. And I just also asking that it looks like for most of legislators, it looks like boreholes. Let me come back to the House of Reps. It looks like boreholes are the only constituency project you and your colleagues implement. These are the questions. I would like you to react to that.
Well, thank you. You see, these things were there in the past. It doesn't mean that they are not around again. But frankly speaking, as a servant in the temple of truth, frankly speaking, this parliament is different from that. If you go through the budget document, you see that members have, as part of their constituency projects, they have very novel initiative. I'm aware that a colleague of mine, has what we call, what he titled School for the Disabled, in his constituency. We have so many novel initiatives beyond borehole. Again, if you also look at it, the parliamentarian, the issue of water as critical as it is still a very serious issue. And that's why today in the 21st century, in today's Nigeria, we are still talking about cholera. Cholera outbreak is as a result of consumption of, contaminated water. So I think even with cholera, just around the corner here, tormenting and disturbing people's life, it shows clearly that lawmakers are even on track, to consider the issue of borehole. But beyond that, lawmakers are doing quite a lot. And you see, one of the things that His Excellency Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas has done for the members, for my colleagues, is to involve, development partners in the training and retraining, of members. Because sometimes you just feel that at the cost of campaigning, some people made a lot of bogus promises. In fact, some of our opponents during the 2023 general election campaigns even promised to build airports in their villages. And some, were voted as a result of those kind of bogus campaigns. But today we are being faced with a reality. The reality we're discussing some time ago in one of our seminars, organized by His Excellency the Right Honorable Speaker, to equally, educate parliamentarians on the role, of a parliamentarian. Because not until some of this engagement with development partners, experts coming in to talk to us, many parliamentarians didn't even know their role, their function, their duties, their constitutional mandate as a parliament. Our basic duty is to legislate for the country, oversight the executive and the representative function. And in carrying out your representative function, I come from a community that is very backward. We don't have roads. We don't even have potable water. Today, my community, Agila, has a very serious water challenge. And every day, I'm making effort to lobby one agency of government or the other to see how we can address the issue of drinking water. When they say potable water, in my own community, we don't have water at all. We don't have at all. It is some people have before they begin to talk about potable. In my own case, it is not there. And my people every day are yearning, they are asking, say, Honorable, please, do anything you can to help us bring about water, potable water in this community. Several other communities are crying to lawmakers. So, the constituency projects, they are very, very important because they are part, of the demands from the constituents. The issue, several other issues, lawmakers are making serious interventions in so many other areas. We want to be directly involved. And that's why today the National Assembly is championing the issue of state police. We are championing employment creation for young Nigerians. We are championing the issue of education improvement in the educational sector. You remember that the 10th Assembly, if we want to give it to them, we are the champions of the student loan bill. We initiated a bill through the parliament. His Excellency has assented to it. And in another 5 to 10 years, a lot of Nigerians would have benefited from the student loan act passed by this parliament. And it will help, our education to grow and develop.
Honorable Agbese, I asked that question because if past presidents had also called it nothing but corruption, I mean, you would wonder what stops ordinary Nigerians from thinking alike. Former President Obasanjo himself, who started constituency projects, once described it as nothing but corruption. I mean, we also have former President Muhammadu Buhari echoed similar claim in 2019 when he said the impact of the trillions of naira voted for constituency projects could hardly be seen in the lives of ordinary Nigerians. Former President Goodluck Jonathan also said, don't put the goat where yam is because the goat will eat the yam. How then do you react to these? And I mean, you wouldn't blame Nigerians for thinking alike.
No. I wouldn't blame Nigerians. And, with all due respect to our former leaders, I would not, because as someone who, is also a soldier in the temple of justice and truth, I want to agree with them, in a way, because during their tenure in office, especially during the Obasanjo era in office, the level of corruption in the country was so high. And I think if they made those comments, they were just trying to be very honest, with the situation that they found themselves at that time. The fundamental issue is that is the situation today, does it look like the situation in their own time? The answer is no. The level of corruption in the Jonathan administration, do we still have that level of corruption today? The answer is no. The level of corruption in the Obasanjo regime, or even yesterday, about corruption, they are no longer there. I can assure you that within the last 1 year, what we have done as a parliament is to a large extent, carry out. Okay, let me bring you to what is happening with one of our committee on the recovery of public assets. It is this parliament, at the course of its investigation, that has opened the eyes of Nigeria to what happened in the Ministry of Aviation under the former Minister Hadi Sirika, when a private jet, a jet belonging to the Nigerian Civil Aviation Technology School at Zaria, was auctioned for less than 10% of the money which it was purchased for, even when it was satisfied that that jet was still well and in good shape. And the jet was taken immediately to America, where it was sold ×2 of the price. So it is this 10th Assembly that has been able to open the eyes of Nigerians to so many of these issues. You can see today we have some good roads, spreading across the country as a result of our oversight interventions, through our Committee on Works. Our Committee on Public Accounts is living up to its living up to expectation. Our Committee on Public Petitions have been able to unearth a lot of series, of maladministration in several quarters across the country. So, without much ado, I believe that the former presidents were right in their assertion, and of course, those were their remarks about the government that they were leading. So the other question is that, will President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, after 2 years of his engagement with this current assembly, current National Assembly, say that the National Assembly is corrupt? The answer is no. Mr. President wouldn't say that, because he has seen a National Assembly that has demonstrated the highest level of transparency, the highest level of accountability, and a parliament that is open, a parliament that wants to learn, a parliament that wants input from the Nigerian people, a parliament that fears no criticism, and a parliament that is ever ready and willing, to yield to the yearnings and aspirations of the ordinary Nigerian. So
talking about
I believe, without...
Honorable Agbese, talking about willingness, I mean, in the last 30 minutes, you've said the 10th Assembly is doing all it can to be different from the 9th Assembly. So talking about willingness, is the 10th Assembly willing to cut costs? Because, Nigerians really believe that there is no attempt on your part to cut costs.
Yes, you see, the issue of cutting costs, we can look at it in two ways, because our Committee on Appropriation, again, giving it to them, the Committee on Appropriation in the 10th House of Representatives, under the leadership of Excellency Dr. Abakar Bichi, is the first. When we received the budget document in 2023 from Mr. President, we organized a town hall meeting, to invite Nigerians to look at the document. We didn't wait for just consideration. We didn't wait for the agencies. We invited Nigerians as the masters, to come in and look at the document. And when they looked at the document, they made suggestions. It was on the basis of the suggestions made to us by Nigerians that we considered the budget, the 2024 budget. Now, in terms of cutting costs, there are in two ways. What do you intend to achieve? An agency of government, I think in the Ministry of Transportation, Land Transport, brought a document, and as a member of that committee, as it were, one of my colleagues noticed the 400,000 naira for foreign travels. And we inquired, what is 400,000 naira for foreign travels? And at the course of explanation, the head of that agency explained that it was to provide ticket for them to visit China, Egypt, and other countries, for railway. And we looked at it. Then we asked, what are the benefits of this foreign travel? And he explained, and after the explanation, we told him, as it is, under the current economic reality, there's nowhere, anywhere in the world that an agency of government can spend 400,000 naira for travel. So what did we do? At that point, we didn't have to, reduce that money, which was already inadequate, to less than 400,000 naira. We made provision for extra, something that will accommodate that request. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that as a parliament, we are looking at, what do we intend to achieve? So where the aim, where the objectives, are lofty, are good enough, and would improve, on the development of the country, then spending, applying the needed resources will be needed. And where we feel that budgetary provision, either for individual members, for the leadership, or for any segment of the country, it's not about the parliament alone. The executive, everybody is involved. We feel that, it is not necessary. The aim does not size up, to the financial commitment. We'll definitely cut down. I give another good example with the military, with the current situation of the country. Don't you think that if a parliament like ours decide, to improve on the budgetary allocation to those agencies, we are not cutting costs, but helping, to stop the killings of fellow citizens of this country. So basically what I'm trying to say in essence is that as a parliament, we are dutifully committed not only to accountability, but to probity. And in carrying out this,
Honorable Agbese, what lessons did the parliament learn from last year's contentious debate over the acquisition of luxury vehicles for its 469 members?
Yes, it is not about luxury. Yeah, because these duties that we are carrying out at the moment, I did say that time, even before I was given the privilege to speak for the parliament, that I am ready, to deploy, my horse or anything that is able to move me from my house to my office to carry out my function. But again, you know that the current state, of our roads, the insecurity across the country, and some other factors wouldn't allow, a parliamentarian or any government functionary, not even you working in the studio, to attempt to trek from your house to your office in the morning. Having established that, there's also the question of courtesy. So in doing all of this, I believe that the vehicles procured at that time for members of parliament as working tools, because it wasn't for their luxury, it wasn't for their comfort. They were to serve as working tools to enable parliamentarians discharge their duties. So they were not the most expensive vehicles in the market, neither were they the cheapest. So to a large extent, leadership took into consideration, a couple of factors. The durability of the vehicle, the purposes which they are to serve. And we put all this together. And I believe that so many Nigerians have changed their views and perspectives about all of that, because they have seen us, a parliament that is not sitting, a parliament that is working, a parliament that is alive to its responsibility, working day and night. With this, the development partners came yesterday. They saw what we have done. They saw what we have achieved. They cannot spend their money where they are not sure. And they are very, very convinced. They are even asking the parliament, to do more. And they are promising more support. And some Nigerians, traditional rulers, civil society leaders, they've all come in, to promise more support. So what we have done so far under the leadership of His Excellency Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas is to be able to tell Nigerians our story in the last 1 year. We didn't invite Nigerians to come and sing praises. We didn't invite them to come and clap hands for us. What we simply did in our wisdom was just to say, come and look at what we have done. And from what we have done, you'll be able to judge. So this morning, a couple of actors that I interacted with at the course of the engagement, said, wow, Honorable, we didn't know you guys were doing all this. We thought you just, and I had that view too. I used to have that notion, that members of the National Assembly are Babariga wearing, bourgeois in the country. But honestly, having being part of the parliament, I've seen things totally different. And I said this to Nigerians. They know that I will be the last person, to come out of anywhere to lie to them. They know very well. This is nothing but the truth. They visited us, really, some will still visit tomorrow, and they'll still see more.
To be very honest, looks like the parliament didn't learn any lesson from that action, because I see you're still defending the acquisition of those luxurious cars. But let's talk about endless probes by the legislature. How many of these probes have achieved its desired objectives? Nigerians are asking what has come out of all the previous probes on education, NNPC, and power.
This is a very big question. And I love the question because it's intriguing. It's also intellectually engaging. So I will start with one of the first probes that we carried out. It was to probe the TED fund, and the receiving agencies, what they do with the resources that get to them. Our committee, the ad hoc committee on that investigation visited the 36 states. And some of the states visited where the projects were not on ground. Contractors have been mandated, have been directed to go back, and we are monitoring. And in some instances, even the TED fund did appreciate us because we realized that there were monies, meant for education tax that were not remitted to the Education Trust Fund. And that, went a very long way as funds are being disbursed judiciously, with some level of transparency, we can all see that, all this will have, will have impact on our higher learning, as a matter of fact. So, aside that, the probe on the power probe, it wasn't done by this parliament. Even though it wasn't carried out by this parliament, what we have done as a responsible parliament is to revisit some of those issues and ensure that our recommendations are adhered to by the executive. Again, as a parliament, we don't have the powers to prosecute anybody. So what we do basically, if we find out that anyone is guilty from the probes that we carry out, we write to the police, which has the statutory, powers, as an agent of government, to arrest, detain, investigate, and prosecute. So I think so far we are living up to expectations. And some of the probes, they are not basically to achieve, let me say, they are not basically to replace the functions of the Nigerian police. Some of the probes are actually to look at, things that happened in the past, if they are still good, or in areas where we can make possible recommendations to enhance and add value. I give you a good example. Today we have set up a committee to look at the issue of the president's directive that the Orosoye committee report should be implemented. And the committee has commenced sitting, engaging Nigerians, because just like we talked about the issue of cost saving for government, these agencies, some of them are creations of parliament. They are creations of the law. So you cannot just wake up and scrap them. And some of these agencies, at the time that the Orosoye committee report came out and say they were not viable, if you look at today's current reality, some are already viable. So basically, we're inviting Nigerians, stakeholders to come again for us to look at it. So when we look at it, the recommendations that will come out, the entire parliament will debate it, and we'll find, some recommendations to make to Mr. President, if to scrap some of those agencies or not to scrap them. So these are the benefits of our probes and committees, and yes.
Still talking about probes, and I'm happy you're here, because I remember the House of Reps resolved to investigate alleged crude oil thefts to the tune of $4 billion, a motion you sponsored. And I remember you said, according to reports, about 40% of crude oil losses due to inaccuracies in measurements and theft as metering errors continue to occur as a result of poor maintenance of metering facilities. I mean, you also said in that report that in 2021 alone, Nigeria lost $4 billion to oil theft at a rate of 200,000 barrels per day. Now, has that investigation been concluded?
No. What happened was that when we came on board, I moved that motion. I think that was within the first 10 days of the lifespan of the 10th National Assembly. In the wisdom of the leadership of the Parliament under His Excellency Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, an ad hoc committee was constituted to look into that. Subsequently, when the standing committees were constituted, His Excellency the Right Honorable Speaker saw, because the first ad hoc committee couldn't go far with the work. They realized that, yes, it was quite a difficult task. And in their recommendation, without submitting a report, they recommended that another committee, should be considered to look into that. So in the wisdom of the Parliament, a special committee, now headed by Right Honorable Alasa Adodogwa, was again constituted, to look at those issues. And because it is not just a technical issue, it is something that has been with us for a very long time. Yes, crude oil theft has been with us for a very long time. So the committee is still making efforts, engaging the stakeholders, both state actors and non-state actors. But what I can say at the moment is that we have achieved, we have made some level of progress, in the sense that now we have woken up the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Company Limited, to its responsibility. We have woken that giant. The NNPC is now talking about the issue of crude oil theft. One agency we came across at the course of that investigation, and of course we appreciate their role so far, is the Nigerian Navy. We I realized that since that motion was debated and the ad hoc committee was constituted, even the Navy that some persons accused in the past to be complicit in the act of crude oil theft, they've woken up. You know, we've seen a lot of seizures of crude oil vessels carrying crude oil, you know, coming into the country to come and siphon and steal our crude oil. They've been arrested by the Navy. We've seen, you know, quite a number of improvement, very tremendous ones, you know, be carried out by the Nigerian Navy. And the NNPC, so far, we've seen some level of transparency, you know, in the conduct of their businesses. Our committee on upstream, downstream, and even the midstream, they are engaging them, you know. So, to a large extent, I don't know what exactly the report that the executive has at the moment on crude oil theft. That motion, that resolution by the parliament to investigate the crude oil theft has sent a signal, you know, to the thieves that yes, Nigerians are alive and the parliament is watching and the parliament is interested. And I think no thief anywhere wants to be caught, you know, or be made to return whatever loot that they have taken. So to that extent, so many of these criminals who used to participate in this activity before are now scared. They are no longer around. Some of them have left, but we are still investigating. And I want to assure you that at the end of the investigation, Nigerians will be happy that indeed we delve into the investigation of the crude oil theft. Unlike in the past, when some of these investigations were not considered by the parliament, what we have done with our synergy and partnership with the executive is that because Mr. President, the executive too, they are also aware that this probe or this investigation are not carried out with any political or ulterior motive as far as the leadership of the Executive Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas is concerned. Of course, they will attend to them because we try to do everything with the highest level of sincerity, you know, for Nigerians and even the executive to know that, yes, we're not out to witch hunt them, but to ensure that we set the record straight to the best of our ability.
All right. I mean, I would have loved for us to continue this conversation, but time is against us. I must thank you very much for joining us this evening on Politics Tonight. Honorable Philip Agbese, Deputy Spokesman, House of Representatives. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and thank you for always.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching, everyone. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight, but you can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode at midnight. Get in touch with us on our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, and X at TVC News NG and at Olajumoke using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We are also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. See you tomorrow.